The doors opened and Victoria Hayes walked into the chamber. Her boots made quiet sounds on the crystal floor. 47 different alien species sat in a circle around her. They all turned to watch as she entered. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. None of them looked friendly. Victoria wore her military uniform. It was dark blue with gold buttons that shined under the bright lights. Medals covered the left side of her chest. There were so many that some hung below others in rows. She had earned every single one of them in combat. She was 42 years old. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her green eyes were calm and steady. She had learned a long time ago not to show fear. Fear was something enemies could use against you. So she walked with her back straight and her chin up. The center of the room had one chair. It sat alone under a spotlight. Victoria knew what this meant. She was not here as an equal. She was here to be questioned. Maybe judged. She did not care. She had been judged before. She was still here. She sat down and crossed her legs. The chair was uncomfortable. It was probably meant to be. Another small way to make her feel weak. It did not work. Victoria had slept in far worse places. She had slept in muddy holes while enemy soldiers searched for her. She had slept in damaged ships while air leaked slowly into space. A hard chair was nothing. The lead counselor sat directly in front of her. His name was Zekthor and he was a Threxian. His species looked like large insects covered in blue and green shells. When he spoke, a machine translated his clicking sounds into words she could understand. "Commander Hayes," he said, "you are here to answer questions about humanity's actions during the frontier wars. Our records show you fought in 73 major battles over 15 years. Victoria nodded once. She did not speak. She had learned that lesson too. Let them ask their questions first. Give them only what they ask for, nothing more. A hologram appeared in the air above them. It showed planets burning, ships exploding in space, soldiers from different species lying dead on battlefields. The images cycled through scene after scene of destruction. Victoria watched without expression. She had seen all of this before. She had been there for most of it. Seeing it again changed nothing. Another alien spoke up. This one was called a Vryn. Her species did not talk with mouths. They put thoughts directly into your mind. Her voice felt cold inside Victoria's head. "How many sentient beings have you killed, Commander Hayes?" The room went quiet. Every alien stopped moving. They all wanted to hear her answer. This was the real reason she was here. Not to discuss strategy or politics. They wanted to know if humans felt guilt, if they had souls, if they were monsters. Victoria let the silence stretch out. She looked around the room slowly. She met the eyes of as many aliens as she could. Then she leaned back in her uncomfortable chair. A small smile appeared on her face. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had survived things that would break most people. "Lost count after my first war," she said. Her voice was casual. She said it the same way someone might say they lost count of the books they had read or the meals they had eaten. It was simple. It was honest. It was terrible. The room exploded with noise. Aliens started talking all at once in dozens of different languages. The translation system could not keep up. It was just noise and anger and shock. One alien jumped to his feet. He was a Krell, covered in gray scales with a crest on his head that flared out when he was angry. Right now it was flared as wide as it could go. "This is what we expected from humans," he shouted. "No shame, no honor. Just killing and more killing. You wear those medals like prizes, but they should be marks of disgrace." Victoria kept smiling. She did not look away from the Krell ambassador. She had fought his species before. She had killed many of them. She would probably kill more before her life was over. The thought did not bother her. "You asked me a question, Ambassador," she said calmly. "I answered it. Would you rather I had lied to you? Would that have made you feel better?" The Krell started to reply, but Zekthor raised one of his arms. The room slowly went quiet again. The head counselor looked at Victoria with his compound eyes. She could not read his expression. Insect faces were hard to understand. "Commander Hayes," he said slowly, "perhaps you should explain yourself. This council needs to understand how your species thinks, how you can speak of so much death so easily." Victoria uncrossed her legs and leaned forward. She rested her elbows on her knees and looked directly at Zekthor. "You want context?" she asked. "You want to understand how a human soldier thinks? Fine, let me tell you about my first war. Let me tell you about the day I learned what I was capable of. Then you can judge me all you want." She stood up. The guards around the room tensed. They thought she might attack someone. But Victoria just walked toward the hologram controls. Zekthor nodded and she touched the panel. The images of destruction disappeared. New images took their place. "This is New Savannah," Victoria said. "An agricultural colony. 3 million people lived there. Farmers mostly. Families, children. They grew food for a dozen other human worlds. They had never known war. They thought the galaxy was a safe place." The hologram showed a beautiful planet. Green fields stretched to the horizon. Small towns dotted the landscape. It looked peaceful. It looked like home. "I was 25 years old," Victoria continued, "fresh out of the academy. I had never fired my weapon at a living target. I was assigned to the orbital defense station. It was supposed to be an easy post, a way for new officers to learn the job without any danger." She touched the controls again. The peaceful image changed. Now the hologram showed warships. 16 of them. They were Krell vessels, ugly and brutal looking. They hung in space above the colony like vultures over a dying animal. "The Krell came without warning," Victoria said quietly. 16 warships against our 4 small patrol ships. They sent us a message. Surrender all food supplies and equipment or they would destroy the colony. We had 1 hour to decide. Victoria turned away from the hologram. She looked at the Krell ambassador. "Your people gave us 1 hour to choose between starvation and death. Do you remember that, ambassador? Do your people keep records of all the colonies they raided? Or were we just another number to you?" The Krell ambassador said nothing. His crest lowered slightly. "My commander wanted to surrender," Victoria continued. "The math was simple. 4 ships against 16. We could not win. But if we surrendered, the people below would starve. So we chose to fight instead. We chose to die buying time for an evacuation." She walked back to her chair but did not sit down. "My ship lasted 18 minutes in combat. Then the reactor took a hit and we had to abandon. I made it to the surface in an escape pod with 30 other survivors. For 6 days we fought the Krell on the ground. We used hunting rifles and farm equipment and anything else we could find. We hit their supply lines. We destroyed their landing craft. We made them pay for every step they took on our world." Victoria's voice never rose. She spoke calmly, like she was describing a training exercise. But her eyes were hard. On the 7th day, help arrived. 3 human battle groups came and drove the Krell away. By then I had killed 37 Krell soldiers with my own hands. I knew because I counted them at first. I thought I should remember each one, that I owed them that much at least. She finally sat back down in the hard chair. But after New Savannah, after my first war, I realized something. If I kept counting, if I remembered every face and every name, I would break. I would become useless to my people. So I stopped counting. I became a weapon instead of a person. And that weapon has been pointed at humanity's enemies ever since. The chamber was silent now. No one spoke. No one moved. Victoria looked at each council member in turn. "You want to know how many I killed? I cannot tell you. But I can tell you why. Every single one of them died because they threatened human lives. Every battle I fought was to protect people who could not protect themselves. If that makes me a monster in your eyes, then so be it. But I sleep fine at night knowing that 3 million people on New Savannah grew old because of what I did." Zekthor studied her for a long moment. "Tell us more, Commander," he said finally. "Tell us about the wars that followed. Help us understand what humanity has become." Victoria remained standing for a moment before she sat back down. The memories of New Savannah were still fresh in her mind even after all these years. She could still smell the smoke from burning crops, still hear the screams of civilians running for the evacuation ships, still feel the weight of the rifle in her hands as she took aim at another Krell soldier. The council chamber stayed quiet. They were waiting for her to continue. She could tell they were uncomfortable. Good. They should be. What she was about to tell them would make them even more uncomfortable. "After New Savannah, I thought things would change," Victoria said. "I thought the galaxy would see what happened and understand that humans would defend themselves. I was wrong." She gestured to the hologram controls and Zekthor nodded. Victoria brought up new images. Star charts this time, showing human territory expanding slowly into the galaxy. For the next 5 years, we kept pushing outward. New colonies. New worlds. Every time we settled somewhere, we tried diplomacy first. We followed all the rules. We respected borders and treaties. And every time someone decided we were easy targets. The hologram showed a list of conflicts, dozens of them. Small raids at first, then larger attacks, then full battles between fleets. The pattern was always the same, Victoria continued. A human colony would be established. We would send diplomatic messages to nearby species. They would either ignore us or send back demands. Surrender your resources, accept our authority, become a client state. When we refused, they would attack. She pulled up images of destroyed settlements, burned homes, dead civilians lying in the streets. I rose through the ranks during this time, not because I wanted to, not because I was ambitious, but because I won battles that everyone said were impossible to win. I brought my people home when other commanders would have lost them. Word spread. When things got bad, they sent me. Victoria's voice was flat. She was not bragging. She was just stating facts. I became a captain and they gave me the destroyer Phoenix. Good ship, good crew. We were assigned to defend mining operations in the Outer Rim. Dangerous work, but necessary. Those mines produced the rare metals we needed for our expansion. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a massive fleet of alien warships. They were sleek and deadly looking, much more advanced than the Krell vessels had been. The hierarchy of sorrow decided humanity needed to be taught a lesson. 6 elder species working together. They had been in space for thousands of years. They had rules and traditions, and they thought we were breaking them by expanding so fast. So they sent 60 warships to destroy 15 of ours. Victoria looked at the Krell ambassador. Your people attacked us for resources. The hierarchy attacked us for principle. I am not sure which is worse. She turned back to the hologram. Admiral Jack Morrison was in command of our fleet. Smart man. He knew we could not win a straight fight, so we did not fight one. We used the asteroid field where the miners worked. We turned it into a weapons platform. Victoria walked around the hologram, pointing at different locations. We planted mining charges throughout the field. Thousands of them. We reprogrammed ore haulers to fly on autopilot, filled them with explosives. We used the mining lasers that cut through solid rock, aimed them at the enemy ships instead. The hologram showed the battle. Human ships darting between asteroids, hierarchy vessels pursuing them. Then explosions. Lots of explosions. Ships breaking apart, debris flying everywhere. The hierarchy expected a traditional battle, ship against ship in open space. Instead, they got a nightmare. Every asteroid could be a trap. Every piece of mining equipment could be a weapon. They lost 42 ships before they finally retreated. Victoria's expression was grim. My ship, the Phoenix, destroyed 3 enemy cruisers. We lured them into a kill zone where mining lasers had been set up. When our own weapons ran out of ammunition, I rammed a damaged hierarchy destroyer. My crew evacuated just in time. I stayed at the helm to make sure we hit the right spot. She paused, remembering the impact. The screech of metal tearing, the alarms blaring, the sensation of being thrown against the restraints as the ship disintegrated around her. Rescue teams pulled me out of the wreckage 3 hours later. They had not expected to find anyone alive. I spent 4 months recovering. Broken ribs, punctured lung, severe burns, but I lived. And more importantly, we won. Zekthor leaned forward in his seat. The hierarchy called it a massacre, Commander Hayes. They said humans fought without honor, that you used civilian equipment as weapons, that you turned space itself into a weapon. Victoria nodded. They were right. We did all of those things. We used every advantage we had, because the alternative was losing our people. Those miners we were protecting, they had families, children. They were building lives in a dangerous place and they deserve protection. The Vryn representative spoke again, her mental voice softer this time. Did you feel nothing for the hierarchy soldiers who died? They were following orders, doing their duty. Victoria turned to look at her. I felt the weight of command. Every decision I made killed people. Some of them were my own crew. Some were enemy soldiers. I felt responsible for all of it. But feeling bad about it does not change the math. If I had fought the way the hierarchy expected, we would have lost. All 15 of our ships, all of our crews, and then the miners below would have been defenseless. She walked back to her chair and sat down. After that battle, things changed. The elder species started to reconsider their opinions about humanity. We were not the primitives they thought we were. We were dangerous, unpredictable, willing to use tactics they had never seen before. The hologram shifted to show more battles, more conflicts. Each one had Victoria's name attached to it. I fought the Krell twice more after New Savannah. The second time was in the Andros system. They tried to blockade one of our trade routes. We broke the blockade using merchant ships with hidden weapons. Civilian vessels that looked harmless until they were right on top of the enemy. The Krell lost 12 ships. We lost 3. Victoria's voice remained steady. The third time was at Station Gamma. Krell raiders tried to capture one of our research facilities. We evacuated the scientists but left the station operational, made it look abandoned. When the Krell boarded, we detonated the reactor, took out their entire assault force and 2 of their carriers. The Krell ambassador's crest flared again. That was a war crime. You used a civilian station as a bomb. Victoria met his gaze. It was our station, our property. We had every right to destroy it rather than let it fall into enemy hands. And it worked. Your people stopped raiding our research facilities after that. She turned to address the whole council. I also fought the hierarchy 4 more times. Each battle was different. Each one required different tactics. But the pattern was always the same. They came at us with superior numbers and technology. We won by being unpredictable, by doing things they did not expect. The hologram showed a battle in deep space, ships maneuvering in the darkness between stars. Then there was the Shade Collective. Most species avoid them. They operate in the dark zones where normal ships cannot track targets. They are pirates and raiders who hide in the black. Victoria stood again, unable to stay still while talking about this particular enemy. We lost a lot of trade ships to the Shade. Crews would just disappear. Ships would go silent. We would find wreckage weeks later if we found anything at all. The Shade were good at what they did. They had been hunting in the dark for centuries. She manipulated the hologram controls. So I took a small fleet into the dark zones. We went hunting for the hunters. Turned off all our lights. Ran silent. Used passive sensors only. For 3 weeks we searched. Then they found us. Or thought they did. The hologram showed a complex ambush. We had rigged one of our ships to broadcast false heat signatures, made it look like a damaged freighter. The Shade came in for an easy kill. Instead, they flew right into the rest of my fleet. We hit them from all sides at once, killed 13 of their ships before they could escape. Victoria's smile returned. That cold, hard smile. They came back for revenge 2 weeks later. Brought 30 ships this time. We lost that fight. Lost 4 of our vessels and most of their crews. But we took 18 of theirs down with us. After that, the Shade stopped attacking human trade convoys. The cost was too high, she sat back down. That battle is not in any official records. Both sides kept it quiet. The Shade do not like admitting they were beaten. We did not want other species to know how badly we lost, but I count those deaths too, both theirs and ours. The chamber was silent again. Victoria could see some of the counselors whispering to each other. Others looked disturbed. A few looked impressed. You paint a picture of constant warfare, Commander, Zekthor said. 15 years of battle after battle. Did humanity ever try to find peaceful solutions? Victoria's expression hardened. Every single time. We offered trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, cultural exchanges. We followed your laws even when they worked against us. We bent over backwards to avoid conflict, and every time we were met with contempt. New species must prove themselves through subservience, the Krell said. Accept our authority or face destruction, the hierarchy demanded. She stood once more and walked toward the center of the room. We chose destruction, but we made sure we were not the only ones facing it. We taught the galaxy that attacking H. Victoria paused to let her words sink in. She could see the council members processing what she had told them. Some looked angry. Others looked thoughtful. The Vryn representative seemed sad, her emotions bleeding through into the minds of everyone nearby. There was one battle that changed everything, Victoria said quietly. One war that turned me from a decorated officer into something else. Something the galaxy had never seen before. She brought up new images on the hologram. 7 planets appeared, small and new-looking. Colony worlds still in their early stages of development. The Kepler sector, 7 human colonies. Total population around 15 million. They were building their futures there. Farms and factories and schools. Normal people trying to live normal lives in a dangerous galaxy. The hologram shifted to show a massive fleet, hundreds of ships moving in perfect formation. The Vryn Collective decided to claim the sector for themselves. They thought humanity was weak from all the fighting. They thought this would be an easy victory. So they sent 140 warships. Victoria looked directly at the Vryn representative. Your people came to take what we had built, not because they needed it, Not because we threatened them, but because they thought we could not stop them. The Vrin's mental voice was defensive. Our strategic command believed the sector was unclaimed territory. Human presence there was recent and small. Victoria's laugh was bitter. Our presence was 3 years old and 15 million strong. But I understand. To a species that has been spacefaring for 3,000 years, 3 years is nothing. You did not see us as real people yet, just temporary occupants. She turned back to the hologram. I was given command of the carrier Valkyrie and a task force of 23 ships. My orders were simple. Hold the sector until reinforcements could arrive. Reinforcements that were weeks away, against 140 Vrin vessels. Zekthor clicked thoughtfully. The military records from both sides agree that this battle should have been a massacre. The Vrin had overwhelming numbers and superior technology. Yet humanity won. How? Victoria walked around the hologram, studying the formation of Vrin ships. I studied your species, she said to the Vrin representative. I looked at every engagement where Vrin forces had fought. I noticed patterns. Your telepathy lets you coordinate perfectly. Every ship knows what every other ship is doing. You move like one organism instead of many separate vessels. It makes you incredibly efficient. The Vrin representative projected pride. Our coordination is unmatched in the galaxy. It is our greatest strength, Victoria nodded. It is. But every strength is also a weakness if you know how to exploit it. Your telepathy lets you read enemy intentions. You can predict what opposing commanders will do, because you sense their thoughts. You have never lost a major battle because you always know what is coming. She manipulated the hologram to show the battle preparations. So I stopped thinking. I instituted what we call the Chaos Protocol. Every captain in my fleet received sealed orders. They could only open them at random times determined by quantum generators. True random, not predictable. Victoria's expression was grim as she continued. I ordered my captains to make decisions based on coin flips, dice rolls, random number generators. I gave them lists of actions and told them to pick one at random every few minutes. We abandoned all traditional tactics and coordination. We became pure chaos. The council chamber was completely silent now. Even the translation systems seemed quieter. The Vrin could not read our intentions because we had no intentions. We did not know what we were going to do until we did it. Ships would suddenly veer away from defensive positions for no reason, then loop back from angles that made no tactical sense. We fired weapons at empty space that enemy ships would fly into while chasing targets that changed direction randomly. Victoria looked at the Vrin representative. Your people tried to adapt, but adaptation requires understanding patterns.
We had no patterns.
Just random chaos guided by dice and coin flips. Your perfect coordination became a liability. You kept positioning ships where you predicted we would be, but we were never where you expected. The hologram showed the battle. It looked insane. Human ships moving in ways that made no sense, attacking and retreating with no apparent strategy. Vrin vessels trying to counter moves that had no logic behind them. The battle lasted 48 hours. It was not elegant. It was not good tactics by any traditional measure, but it worked. Your fleet lost 91 ships. We lost 17. The Kepler sector stayed in human hands. Victoria sat down heavily as if the memory exhausted her. But the cost was not measured only in ships. I spent 48 hours forcing myself not to think. Every instinct I had developed over 15 years of combat had to be ignored. I made decisions that felt wrong. That went against everything I knew about warfare. My crew followed orders that seemed suicidal. They trusted me. They died trusting me. Her voice was quiet now. 3,200 people died in that battle. Human soldiers and crew members. I knew all their names. I had read every service record. I carry the weight of every death. But 15 million civilians survived. 7 colonies that are still there today, still growing, still building their futures. The Vrin representative was silent for a long time. Then her mental voice came through, heavy with emotion. I was part of the strategic command that planned that attack. We reviewed the battle data for months afterward. We could not understand what happened. Our best analysts could not predict a single move your fleet made. It was like fighting ghosts, Victoria nodded. I made myself into a ghost. I made my entire fleet into ghosts. We became unpredictable by removing all prediction from our actions. It nearly drove me insane. For weeks after the battle, I had trouble making simple decisions. My mind had been trained to ignore logic, and now it did not want to start again. She looked around the chamber. That is what you need to understand about humanity. We will break ourselves if necessary to protect our own. We will use tactics that hurt us just to hurt the enemy more. We will become things we do not recognize if that is what survival requires. Zekthor manipulated his own controls. New information appeared on the hologram. Treaty documents. The Vryn Collective sued for peace 1 month after that battle. They recognized human sovereignty over the Kepler sector and all existing colonies. They established borders and agreed to mutual non-aggression. This treaty has held for over a decade. Victoria nodded. Their ambassador came to Earth for the signing. He asked to meet with me privately. Wanted to understand how we defeated them. I told him the truth. You cannot read thoughts that do not exist. You cannot predict actions based on logic when there is no logic involved. The Vryn representative's mental voice was softer now. Our ambassador wrote in his report that humans are the most disturbing species he had ever encountered. You treat warfare as a problem to be solved, rather than a ritual to be honored. You discard tradition in favor of victory. You sacrifice your own sanity to achieve your goals. Victoria smiled that cold smile again. Your ambassador understood us better than most. We are problem solvers. Give us an impossible situation and we will find a way through it. Even if that way costs us everything. Even if we have to become monsters to do it. She stood and walked to the hologram display. She pulled up more images. Battle after battle. Victory after victory. Some narrow. Some decisive. All bought with blood. After Kepler, my reputation spread across the galaxy. I became known as the human who could not be predicted. The officer who won battles that should have been losses. Other species started to avoid engaging human forces if they knew I was involved. Victoria turned back to the council. But reputation only goes so far. There were still battles. Still wars. The galaxy is a big place and there are always predators looking for prey. I fought in 29 more major engagements after Kepler. Won 23 of them. The 6 I lost were strategic withdrawals where I saved most of my forces. She pulled up casualty figures. The numbers were staggering. In all those battles, enemy forces lost approximately 243,000 soldiers. Human forces under my command lost around 18,000. That ratio kept us alive. That ratio taught the galaxy not to attack us. The Krell ambassador could not stay quiet any longer. You speak of these numbers as if they mean nothing. 243,000 dead. Each one was a person. Each one had a life, a family, dreams, and hopes. You snuffed all of that out and you do not even remember their faces. Victoria turned to face him directly. You are absolutely right, Ambassador. Every single one was a person. But so were the 18,000 humans who died under my command. So were the 15 million civilians on Kepler. So were the 3 million on New Savannah. I chose which people would live and which would die. That is what command means. She walked toward the Krell ambassador's position. Your species attacked New Savannah for food and equipment. You were willing to let 3 million people starve. Do you remember their faces, Ambassador? Do you know their names? Or were they just numbers in a raid report? The Krell's crest flattened. He had no answer. Victoria turned back to the center of the room. I do not remember the faces of TY Deck. The council chamber remained quiet after Victoria finished speaking. She could see the aliens processing her words. Some looked disturbed. Others seemed thoughtful. A few appeared almost impressed, though they tried to hide it. Zekthor broke the silence. Commander Hayes, your testimony has been detailed and disturbing in equal measure, but this council must address a fundamental question. You have described 15 years of warfare, countless battles and deaths. Yet humanity now seeks to join this council, to become part of the galactic community. How can we trust a species that seems to embrace violence so readily? Victoria stood once more. She was tired of sitting in that uncomfortable chair, tired of being judged by species who had never faced the choices she had faced. You want to know if humans can be trusted? She asked. Let me tell you what happened after the wars ended. She manipulated the hologram to show peacetime. Human ships on trade routes, diplomatic missions, cultural exchanges. 5 years ago, the major conflict stopped, not because we won every war, but because we made the cost of fighting us too high. Species across the galaxy decided that whatever they wanted from humanity was not worth the losses they would take getting it. Victoria pulled up economic data. Since then, human trade has increased by 400%. We have signed non-aggression pacts with 17 species. We have joint research projects with 9 different civilizations. We have cultural exchange programs with dozens more. She turned to face the council. We did not abandon our military. We kept our ships and our weapons and our soldiers ready, but we used them to defend trade routes and protect allies instead of fighting wars. When pirates attacked Threxian merchants in the Outer Rim, human patrol ships responded. When the Krell faced a refugee crisis after their civil war, human transports helped evacuate civilians. Zekthor's translator crackled. Are you saying humanity has changed? Victoria shook her head. No, we have not changed at all. We are still the same people who fought those wars, still willing to use violence when necessary, but we learned that violence is a tool, not a solution. It solves immediate problems but creates long-term ones, so we use other tools now when possible. She walked around the hologram, pointing at different data points. Human colonies in the Kepler sector now trade regularly with Vryn worlds. The species that tried to conquer us 15 years ago are now our trading partners. Why? Because after we proved we could hurt them, we offered them something better. Cooperation instead of conflict. Mutual benefit instead of mutual destruction. The Vryn representative's mental voice was warm with approval. The trade agreements between our species have been profitable for both sides. Human agricultural techniques have improved crop yields on several Vryn worlds. In exchange, Vryn medical technology has saved countless human lives. Victoria nodded. Exactly. We fought when we had to, but once the fighting stopped, we built something better. That is what humanity does. We adapt, we learn. We find solutions. The Krell ambassador spoke up, his tone skeptical. Pretty words, Commander. But words are easy. Actions define a species. You have admitted to killing hundreds of thousands. You carry that blood on your hands. Victoria turned to face him directly. I do, and I will carry it until the day I die. But let me ask you something, Ambassador. Your species raided New Savannah 27 years ago. You tried to starve 3 million people. How many Krell have visited New Savannah since the war ended? The Krell ambassador looked confused by the question. I do not have that information. Victoria pulled up the data herself. Over 10,000. Krell merchants, tourists, students. They walk the same streets your soldiers tried to destroy. They eat food grown in the same fields your ships tried to steal. And not one of them has been harmed. Not one has been turned away. Because humans understand the difference between soldiers following orders and civilians living their lives. She let that sink in. The Krell soldiers I killed were trying to harm my people. The Krell civilians visiting our worlds are not. It is that simple. We judge actions, not species. We fight enemies, not entire civilizations. Victoria walked back to the center of the room. That is what this council needs to understand. Humanity is dangerous when threatened. We will use every weapon and tactic available to protect our own. But we are not mindless killers. We do not seek war. We seek peace. We just refuse to accept peace on terms that make us weak or vulnerable. Zekthor leaned forward in his seat. So humanity joins this council with one hand extended in friendship and the other holding a weapon? Victoria smiled. Yes, exactly. Because that is reality. The galaxy is not a safe place. Species still attack each other. Pirates still raid trade routes. The Shade Collective still hunts in the dark zones. This council needs members who understand violence and how to stop it. She pulled up military data from across the galaxy. Look at the conflicts since humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. Hundreds of raids, dozens of wars, thousands of ships destroyed, millions of people killed or displaced. And in most cases, this council did nothing, could not agree on action, could not respond fast enough. Victoria's voice grew harder. When the Krell raided New Savannah, did this council help? When the hierarchy tried to destroy our mining operations, did anyone intervene? When the Vryn attacked Kepler, did you send peacekeepers? She looked around at the silent aliens. No, you watched. You took notes. You debated in chambers like this one while people died. That is fine. We did not expect help. We learned to rely on ourselves. But now you want us to join your council and follow your rules. Rules that failed to protect anyone when it mattered. The chamber erupted with protests. Multiple aliens tried to speak at once. Zekthor had to call for order several times before quiet returned. Commander Hayes, he said carefully, you make serious accusations against this council. Victoria did not back down. I state facts. This council is good at debate and diplomacy. It is terrible at action. You have no unified military force, no rapid response capability. When a crisis happens, you form committees and draft resolutions while people die waiting for help. She pulled up recent incidents. 3 months ago, pirates attacked a Threxian colony world. It took this council 2 weeks to authorize a response force. By then, the pirates were gone and 8,000 civilians were dead. Last year, a disease outbreak threatened to wipe out an entire species. This council debated for a month about who should pay for medical supplies. Private human corporations shipped the medicine before you finished arguing. Victoria's green eyes were hard as stone. This council needs humanity, not because we are wise or diplomatic, but because we know how to act. We make decisions quickly and we follow through. When there is a problem, we solve it. We do not debate it to death. The Vryn representative projected thoughtfulness. You suggest that humanity would change how this council operates? Victoria nodded. We would bring a new perspective. When threats emerge, we would push for immediate action instead of endless discussion. When species need help, we would provide it first and argue about payment later. When peace fails, we would have forces ready to restore it. She looked directly at Zekthor. This council was formed to prevent wars and protect member species, but it has become a debate society. All talk and no action. Humanity can change that. We have the military strength, the industrial capacity, and most importantly, the will to act when necessary. The council members whispered among themselves. Victoria could not understand most of what they were saying, but she caught the tone. Some were intrigued. Others were afraid. A few were angry at her criticism. Zekthor called for quiet again. Commander Hayes, you paint humanity as the solution to the council's problems, but you also describe your species as dangerous and unpredictable. How can we trust that human strength will be used wisely? Victoria considered the question carefully. You cannot, not completely. Trust must be earned over time. But consider this. Every species in this chamber has been spacefaring for hundreds or thousands of years. You have established empires, fought your wars, and now you maintain the status quo. You are comfortable, safe, set in your ways. She gestured at the hologram showing human territory. Humanity achieved faster than light travel 80 years ago. We have existed in this galaxy for less than a human lifetime. We are new, raw, still learning, and in that short time, we have fought off multiple invasions, established colonies across dozens of systems, and forced the elder species to recognize us as equals. Victoria's voice was firm. We did this not through diplomacy or ancient wisdom. We did it through determination and adaptability. We learned faster than anyone expected. We developed tactics no one had seen before. We became a power in the galaxy because we refused to be victims. She walked toward Zekthor's position. That is what you need. A species that still remembers how to struggle, that understands survival, that will fight when necessary and build when possible. You do not need more ancient species with ancient ways. You need someone who can think differently, react differently. Someone who is not bound by thousands of years of tradition. Victoria stopped in front of the head counselor. You asked if you can trust humanity. The better question is, can humanity trust this council? We have seen how you operate. Slow, cautious, unwilling to act without perfect consensus. The council members talked among themselves for several minutes. Victoria stood in the center of the chamber, watching them debate her fate and humanity's future. She felt tired. Not physically, though standing for hours was exhausting, but tired in her soul. Tired of explaining, tired of justifying, tired of being judged by species who had never faced the choices she had faced. Finally, Zekthor raised his appendage for silence. Commander Hayes, this council must deliberate on humanity's application. You are dismissed while we discuss. We will summon you when we have reached a decision. Victoria nodded. She gave a sharp military salute and turned to leave. Her boots clicked on the crystal floor as she walked to the exit. The doors opened with a soft hiss and she stepped through into the corridor beyond. The hallway was empty except for one person. A young human man in a junior officer's uniform. His name was Kyle Peters and he served as her aide. He was 23 years old. He had been born the same year Victoria fought at New Savannah. Commander, Kyle said nervously. How did it go? Victoria leaned against the cool wall. She let out a long breath. I told them the truth, all of it. Now we wait to see if the truth was enough. Kyle fidgeted with his data pad. Do you think they will accept us? Victoria looked at the young officer. He reminded her of who she had been at his age. Full of hope and ideals. Not yet worn down by war and hard choices. Honestly, I do not know. I gave them every reason to fear us and every reason to want us. Which one matters more, we will find out soon. They stood in silence for a while. Victoria's mind wandered back through all the battles she had described, all the faces she had tried to forget, all the decisions that still haunted her. "Commander," Kyle said quietly, "can I ask you something personal?" Victoria turned to look at him. "Go ahead." Kyle hesitated, then asked the question that had clearly been bothering him. "Do you regret it? Any of it? The killing? The wars?" Victoria considered the question seriously. It deserved a real answer. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the galaxy forced those choices on us. I regret every human life lost under my command. But do I regret protecting our people? No, never." She looked down at her medals. "These represent battles I won, ships I destroyed, enemies I killed. But they also represent civilians who lived because I was willing to do terrible things. Colonies that still exist because I made myself into a weapon. If I regret that, then I dishonor everyone who trusted me to keep them safe." Kyle nodded slowly, processing her words. "The Academy teaches us that you are a hero, that you saved humanity from its enemies. But hearing you talk about it, you do not sound like you feel like a hero." Victoria smiled slightly. "Heroes are for stories, Kyle. Real soldiers are just people who do what needs to be done. Sometimes that makes you look heroic. Sometimes it makes you look like a monster. Usually both at the same time." A chime sounded. The council was ready for her. That was faster than Victoria had expected. Either they had made a quick decision or they had been debating all along and just needed to formalize it. "Time to find out our fate," Victoria said. She straightened her uniform and walked back toward the chamber doors. Kyle called after her. "Good luck, Commander." Victoria did not respond. Luck had nothing to do with it. The decision was already made. She would just have to live with whatever it was. The doors opened and Victoria walked back into the council chamber. The aliens had rearranged themselves somehow. They looked more formal, more official. This was going to be a pronouncement, not a discussion. Zekthor stood as Victoria reached her chair. She remained standing as well. "Commander Victoria Hayes," the head counselor began. "This council has debated extensively regarding humanity's application for membership. Your testimony has been central to our deliberations. We have reviewed your military record. We have discussed your tactics and your philosophy. We have argued about what your species represents." Victoria kept her face neutral. She had no idea which way this would go. "It is the decision of this council that humanity shall be granted provisional membership. Full membership will be reviewed in 20 standard years. During this time, humanity must uphold all council laws, contribute to collective security, and demonstrate that your species can balance strength with wisdom." Relief washed through Victoria, though she did not let it show on her face. Provisional membership was better than nothing. It gave humanity a seat at the table, a voice in galactic affairs, time to prove themselves. However, Zekthor continued, "This council recognizes that humanity brings unique perspectives and capabilities. Commander Hayes, you are hereby appointed as humanity's military liaison to the Council Security Committee. Your experience and your methods, as brutal as they are, may prove valuable in maintaining galactic peace." That surprised Victoria. She had expected humanity to be accepted or rejected. She had not expected a job offer. The Vryn representative's mental voice echoed in the chamber. "We believe the best way to prevent wars is to ensure all species understand the cost of starting them. You have made yourself into that lesson, Commander. Now you must teach it to others." Victoria processed this. They wanted her to do for the Council what she had done for humanity. Be the weapon that kept enemies at bay, the threat that prevented violence through the promise of overwhelming response. "I accept the appointment," Victoria said. "But I must ask, am I expected to change how I operate? To follow more civilized rules?" The Krell ambassador spoke up, and his tone was different than before. Still not friendly, but respectful. "No, Commander. You are expected to be exactly what you have always been. A reminder of what awaits those who threaten the innocent. The galaxy needs someone willing to do what others will not." "Humanity seems good at producing such people." Victoria allowed herself a small smile. "We prefer the term guardians. We may be dangerous, but we only bite the wolves. The sheep have nothing to fear from us." Zekthor made a gesture that Victoria interpreted as approval. "Then it is settled. Humanity is welcomed into the galactic community. Commander Hayes will serve as military liaison. This session is concluded." The council members began to file out. Several stopped to speak with Victoria. Some offered congratulations. Others gave warnings about expectations. A few simply studied her like she was a dangerous animal that had been caged but could still bite. The Vryn representative approached last. Her mental voice was private now, directed only at Victoria. I wanted to tell you something. After the Battle of Kepler, our strategic command studied everything about you. We tried to understand how one human could defeat an armada. We found records of your entire career. Every battle. Every tactic. Every impossible victory. Victoria waited for the point. What disturbed us most was not your violence or your tactics. It was your consistency. You never wavered. Never broke. Never let guilt or fear change your course. You made yourself into something beyond human to protect your species. That kind of dedication is rare in the galaxy. It is why we feared you. It is also why we respect you. The Vryn paused. Do not lose that, Commander. The galaxy needs people who will not compromise when it matters. But also do not lose your humanity in the process. There must be something left of Victoria Hayes beyond the weapon she made herself into. With that, the Vryn representative left. Victoria stood alone in the empty chamber. She thought about those words. About the person she had been before New Savannah. The young lieutenant who had never killed anyone. Who thought war was something that happened to other people. That version of herself felt like a stranger now. Like someone she used to know a long time ago. But the Vryn was right. Somewhere inside that person still existed. The woman who counted the first 37 kills because she thought they mattered. Who believed every life had value. Who wanted to protect people not just because it was her duty, but because she cared. Victoria had buried that person deep down. Locked her away where feelings could not interfere with decisions. Where compassion could not weaken resolve. But maybe, now that the wars were over, she could let a little of that person back out. Kyle was waiting in the corridor when Victoria emerged. We heard the announcement over the comms, he said excitedly. Humanity is in, and you are appointed to the security committee. That is incredible. Victoria smiled. A real smile this time, not the cold one she used in negotiations. It is a start. Now comes the hard part, proving we deserve to be here. They walked together down the corridor toward the diplomatic quarter where the human delegation was housed. What will you do first as military liaison? Kyle asked. Victoria considered the question. I will review all current threats to Council space, identify weaknesses in the security structure, develop response protocols for various crisis scenarios, and I will start training programs to teach other species how humans fight, not so they can copy us, but so they understand us, she paused. And then I will go home, back to Earth. I have not been there in 3 years. I need to see fields that are not battlefields, cities that are not war zones, people who are not soldiers. I need to remember what I was fighting for. Kyle nodded. That sounds good, Commander. You have earned a rest, Victoria shook her head. Not rest, just a reminder of why it mattered, why all of it mattered. They reached the human quarters. Other members of the delegation rushed to congratulate Victoria.